Good evening, everybody. It's John for Father's Rights and my anti-human trafficking YouTube channel. It's 6:38 p.m., February 24th, 2025. This is going to be my Hereditary Abuse series number 8. And every day I'm finding out more and more, and I'm going to try and share it with as many people as possible, so you could possibly prevent your child from being neglected and abused by somebody that's obviously showing signs of a bipolar disorder. And the more that information that I'm sharing with other people about the behaviors, I was checked out. I'm as normal as plain white bread. But they were asking me a lot of questions about the way members of my wife's family act. And, I in turn asked questions of what does that all mean? Explain it to me. Because it affects my daughter, and I don't want her ending up the same way. That's my deepest fear, since that activity that they're engaged in always leads to a dead-end road, and I don't want to see my daughter following that path which others took, where they just, nobody goes to your funeral, nobody cares if you're alive or dead because you've victimized everybody, and if you're bipolar you have a high tendency to be a narcissist. And you believe that everything in the world should circulate around you, and everybody should be concerned about your failings, and you're not concerned about anybody else's, including your own children. Now, there were several events that I talked about, and I told you that for some reason the females on my wife's side of the family cannot bond to their own children. They just reject them for any reason. If the child has a problem and you say, hey, the child's got to go to school, instead of dealing with the problem with the child, they'll be taking that as you attacking them, because they believe the whole world circles around them. You see, so if you say anything negative about the activities of a bipolar narcissist, they're going to take that as an attack on them. And I realized that as I read some of the comments she put on there, and we read, the lawyers were pointing it out to me. She can't spell. It's almost like she has a learning disorder, and that's a part of being bipolar. You can't. You're learning disabled. Like some of the words that she put on the statements. This is a court document, and she can't spell 6th grade grammar correctly. And that was another sign of it. Also, when we went to court, I think the judge caught on to this. The first time she went to court, she portrayed herself as a victim. On the other side of her behavior, no makeup on, hair up, pulled behind her head, looking kind of mundane. But the second time she went to court, where she thought she was going to be the focus of attention, what she craved, since she's a bipolar narcissist. Oh, she had on a new pantsuit, new wraparound glasses, she had her hair done, and she had full makeup on, and she sat down at the desk like she was in her own sitcom. And the judge was like, I seen him go like this. And then another time she'll come to court, she'll be the complete opposite. She'll be sloppy. And another thing I noticed about this, guys, would somebody like a female is bipolar and um, and she's a narcissist, like if you tell her, hey, doing that to the child, you're neglecting the child, CPS is going to go after you, and it's 17 days. She somehow took that as a personal attack and said I was calling CPS on her and I was going to take her child away from her. Saying I was going to have CPS take the child away from her and I was going to put my daughter in foster care. And then I realized she was talking about her own family. She was telling on herself. And that's a unique ability they have, a bipolar narcissist, is that they'll accuse you of doing the things that you didn't do because the person actually doing those things is them. Now, when I told my wife that the child has to go to school or CPS is going to come over here and I'm not going to let them take my daughter because of what you did, she got butthurt and made it all about herself rather than my child's future is at stake if you don't send her to school. So, rather than doing the normal thing and apologizing and say I'm under a lot of stress, but I will make sure she goes to school, instead she exacerbated the condition after CPS went after her, under the premise in her mind is, well, I'm not going to send her to school because he called CPS, when it's actually the school who's in charge of calling CPS on that. And then that ended up being 39 days. And again, in the delusional world where she's the focus of attention, she totally forgot that her kid actually had to go to school by law. And she wasn't listening to anybody because, you know, a bipolar narcissist is never wrong. One of the other things that you can also pick up on somebody that's bipolar, on women, their hygiene is kind of disgusting. And my daughter was picking up these traits. I'd walk into my daughter's room when she was playing a game and ask her, hey, you want to have pizza or something? Let's go get some ice cream. It's the summer. And then I would smell like a funk of body odor. And I would think it was me. And I'd pick up my arms and sniff my armpits. And I said, it's not me. It was my daughter. I actually used to tell my daughter to go take a shower. And then, why are you trying to control your daughter? What are you trying to do, forcing her to take a shower? Hygiene. Now, here's the best part. You guys gotta think this. People that are bipolar and a narcissist believe that they don't offend anybody simply because they just don't care if you're offended or not. Their actions, there's always an excuse. You know, when you're a narcissist and you're bipolar, you're up here and the peasants are down here, right? So why do you have to talk to a peasant? They're not on the same level. So you would go, like, we had a guest bathroom, and I would go in there and constantly find feminine napkins, used ones, left in the little can there for garbage, and they'd be left there for weeks. So you can imagine you're visiting my home and you look over to your left or right, wherever she decided to put the can, and you're going to see a bunch of used feminine napkins. And I actually didn't want to have sex with her anymore because, to tell you the truth, you needed some Lysol to get down there. And then, of course, she started to blame me. Well, you don't want to touch me. But you can't say anything to them because they're going to take it as a personal attack because you're pushing them off that imaginary pedestal they built for themselves. So you're telling them, well, You can't tell him I don't want to have sex with you because you've given me 4 yeast infections and your ass smells dirty. I just can't be in bed with that kind of nasty ass woman. But the facts are, they don't ask you what's wrong because they don't care. And that's the same way she treated my daughter. Since I was telling her not to neglect the child by not sending her to school, the narcissist instead does the complete opposite, to actually torture her own child to prove some kind of delusional impulse, where she thinks I'm attacking her when I'm telling her to stop neglecting the child. So the more we look at it and we talk about the behaviors, the more it looks like that my wife's family does indeed have some kind of hereditary mental illness that's now starting to affect my daughter. And what I'm having is somebody else who's already has the same mental illness trying to take care of my daughter, who's now showing signs of the same mental illness. And the only relief that my daughter's ever had when she's had these anxiety or depression attacks, she would never have those if she was having them. I got her through them, and the next thing she was smiling and laughing and being a happy kid. Because I cared about how she was feeling. I honestly believe her mother doesn't even have the ability to even know what my daughter's feeling at any given moment. Me, on the other way, I could just look at my daughter and see that she's depressed or she's unhappy or she's sad. But when you're bipolar and you're a narcissist on top of that, you either simply don't care and you just haven't developed the skills to even talk to somebody and realize that maybe what you're saying is hurting them or something. But the narcissist, on the other hand, they can't take any criticism. Even when they're doing something very obvious as neglecting their child and you're trying to stop them from doing it. Instead, they have to get even because you hurt their delusional fantasy world, where they're up here and you're down here. You see, you brought them into reality by saying, hey, if you don't bring the kid to school, CPS is going to come calling, and they're going to take our daughter away. Now, you got to get her to school. Well, in the narcissist's mind, you're trying to control them because there's some kind of great magical power way beyond human understanding, and I'm trying to get control of it so I can manipulate it to my benefit. When in truth, there's no benefit to be had by being with such a person. So you could see like after you learn the conditions that a bipolar is, like they'll steal off you, right? This is one incident I could tell you right away. They'll steal something from you. The narcissist will laugh. And her female narcissist friends will laugh if you turn around and say, why'd you steal something off of me? And they'll all think it's goddamn funny. It's not funny to you because that's your personal property and somebody without your permission has taken it and used it to benefit themselves and couldn't care less. So when I asked them, why'd you steal that from me? That's not good behavior. It breaches trust. And after a while, you steal it from me. Why should I put in any effort to help you with anything if you think that you just step on me and steal from me. Again, it's that narcissistic bipolar behavior that's self-evident when you tell the person, hey, why'd you steal from me? And they turn around, well, I did what I had to do. No regard to the other person. You see what I'm saying? No regard. And they'll act very masculine and defensive. And I'll turn around and say, okay, Buck Henry. And then the whole situation will blow out of control and they'll get upset. Not because of what they did to you, which was very grievous. They'll focus on the offense they feel that pushed them off their pedestal a little bit, in their little delusional world. They'll attack you for that by saying, well, why'd you call me Buck Henry? So what happens is they take something that's a level 10 offense, right? And when you say something about it, which is really a level 1 defense, in defense of yourself and your own property, and call them Buck Henry, of course they're being masculine. I mean, what's the harm of calling somebody Buck Henry when they're being masculine after they just basically robbed you and you're worried about being called Buck Henry, but you forgot about that? The reason why I'm calling you that is because you robbed me? You see how the relationship is always one-sided? It always matters their feelings. Not their daughter's feelings, not their husband's feelings. Their feelings. They need to have expensive stuff. You? Who cares? You have a nice car? Like I did? Well, they get offended because they believe they should have all of that money that you spent on the car and give it to them. Because they're up here and you're down here. And what happens when where she learned those behaviors from another person, her own mother? She's going to reinforce those bad habits because she's another one who thinks she's up here and you're down here. And they would constantly berate you, telling you, why don't you have a job? And I'll turn around and say, you haven't had a job for 50 years. And all of a sudden, ooh, the indignity. Yeah. And that's what they do. It has to be mental illness. Why are you doing unto others, and when it's done unto you, it's offensive, not allowable behavior? And the reason why is you can't connect to people. You simply don't care because all you do is care about yourself. And that's a sign of narcissistic bipolar person who every little problem they have, and if you don't come there to the rescue, you're the bad guy. And on that, I'm out of here.